Okay, this is my midterm reflection for ESP 103. So I'm going to start off by recapping each week what I learned from the reading, how I used that in the project for the weekend assignment, and then how I felt about that week. So first week was be creative, which what I learned from the reading is that creativity is a skill that you learn and that you can develop just through practicing it. What I've always thought about creativity is either kind of like you had it or you didn't. So, as a kid growing up, I was always on the analytical math side. Ever since there was like an honor math program, I was in it. Very black and white numbers related. So I'm like, okay, I'm not creative. Because in math, there's one solution, right or wrong, and that's it. So, also about creativity is that it's not just about making things. Like when I think creativity, I think like you're either drawing, painting, you're an engineer, or you're inventing things. And that's not all what it is. Solving problems, creativity, is the same creativity as creating things, like drawing. And one concept was divergent and convergent thinking. So, divergent thinking is just when you see a problem and you're trying to find a solution, you're just gonna try to expand to any ideas that you have, good or bad, just get them out, no matter how crazy, how improbable, how unlikely that they'll actually work. Even if you know it won't work, just get it down and just make as many ideas as possible, which is what we learned or expanded on and be confident later on. But after you have all these crazy ideas, you have to scale it down, using convergent thinking, into something that would actually work and be practical. And you kind of judge its practicalness on usefulness and novelty. So, will it actually work? Is it useful? Is it worthless? Obviously, don't do that. And then, is it novel? Is it a new idea? Have people seen it before? That's something that you want to look for. So, in my weekend assignment for that, I researched companies. So, the first company that I researched was Apple. And everyone knows that, the first iPhone release was such a novel idea. No one had ever seen it before. That's why they're such a success today. So, when they created the first iPhone, it was useful. It was a full functioning phone, but they changed the thinking into a phone and having a handheld computer on the phone instead of just like calling and texting. So that was a completely new idea. And then once apps started to develop, that launched it over every other cell phone company. So that idea of novelty was completely different and made that business infinitely successful. And the overall feeling that I got and what I learned from that week was creativity is can be learned and can be practiced, which was again such a light bulb moment for me because I never really thought about creativity like that before. So the next week, be curious. What I learned from that week, the reading, was they had us take a test in the book where like the different types of creativity, and the one that came up shortest for me was my social creativity. Now I could have guessed this as a, you know, going in blindly because I would always consider myself an introvert. And whenever it comes to talking to new people, kind of branching out of my comfort zone socially, I don't really do it. I don't enjoy it. So, again, that's why I don't do it. And whenever I kind of try to branch out, it's very stressful for me, and I'm always like, I try to get out of that situation most of the time. And that was, again, part of the reading where stress from this type of creativity or curiosity is good. Stretching out of your comfort zone into what you haven't done before is great. There's obviously a limit to that where too much stress is bad, but it's a good thing to expand out of your comfort zone. And also, curiosity is a process. So, one of the things in the reading was you first off with challenging ideas, previous ideas that have kind of been established, creating questions into how to make that better and improvement, and then going on to concepts, ideas, and then prototype and testing, which links back to the week before in the usefulness and novelty, where you want to find parts of the industry you're working with to find how you can make your idea more useful and novel. So for that weekend assignment, I made a short film, which is what I started with, my kind of topic to go over. So the golden hour, I researched short film, kind of the ins and outs, and just overall how to do it on a very small scale. So I made kind of like a short comedy horror film that I really enjoyed. And yeah, so that's what I got out of that week is kind of questioning how to improve upon these true and tested ideas. And while making this short film, it was very much out of my comfort zone. I had never really made film. I'm never really on social media. So whenever I'm in front of a camera, it's very new and uncomfortable for me, like right now. But making that short film, it was fun. My roommate helped me out with it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So the next week, be confident. What I learned from the reading was kind of three things, main topics. Taking calculated risks to kind of improve your confidence, going out of your comfort zone and stress, which connects back to be curious. The idea of having good stress, getting out of your comfort zone, and growing from that. So, the goose chase we did that week, which was probably the most uncomfortable I've been in a long time. Going out in public and embarrassing yourself was terrifying for me. Although my favorite TV show is Impractical Jokers, the idea of actually doing it to a stranger horrified me. And every time I went up to someone to do it, I was sweating bullets, my voice was shaky. It was not good. I was so much out of my comfort zone. And the other task we did was 103 ice cream flavors. So when I did that, I got like 15 or 20, maybe 30 really quickly, just thinking about normal flavors that you think would work. But then, kind of the divergent thinking going back to week one, 103 ideas, you're gonna have to think outside the box to create all those. So that was, again, stressful for me because it's such a large number once you see it on the paper. 103 ideas when you can only think of like 20 foods and you're only 20% done. It rattled me kind of. So the weekend assignment for that one was the creating 103 ideas, then narrowing it down to 50, 15, and then 3 that you're going to stick with for the next week. So the question I chose for that was how to create a good short film on a budget. So my ideas all went into that, and that was probably 10 times harder than the ice cream flavors because all my ideas were kind of conceptual and I couldn't really physically see how it was going to turn out. Like for my final example that I went with next week, that I went with for my pitch was, let me think, to use free furniture that you find on like Facebook Marketplace and then creating scenes out of that to use in your short film rather than renting somewhere out. So all my ideas were like that, and that I couldn't really see how it was going to turn out, which made it harder to create the 100 ideas. So that was the divergent thinking that we've worked on for the past 2 weeks. And then narrowing it down to 50, 15, and then 3 was the convergent thinking. And you were basing what you were going to cut using your usefulness and novelty factor that we learned in week 1. So, yeah, that's how I felt about that week. And then be resilient, our final week of learning. What I learned from that week is what we did in the discussion board. If you were going to explain resilience to a 5-year-old, it would be to never give up even when you feel you won't succeed. So that kind of goes into similar concepts that I already knew, like perseverance, determination, is that kind of getting back up even when you know you failed. Because the real failure is the staying down, not falling down. How to think of that. And the characteristics, the ideas or the people that they gave in the book that were kind of like their highlights for resiliency. The characteristics that they shared was a positive mental attitude, confidence in themselves or self belief, and then their ability to adapt. So the one that stood out to me that everyone knows is Tiger Woods. He's been through countless setbacks through his personal life, through injuries, and every time he's come back and was still able to compete and even win professionally. And when you look at what he's been through, it's almost impossible. But he always believed in himself. Every time he fall down, he got back up, got back to work, and knew he had the ability to keep going and succeed. And another concept was the rejection theory and the TED talk that we watched about that. So the one he talked about was like the 100 days of rejection therapy. And through getting rejected or just asking crazy questions, that you're going to learn that people will say no to you. But if you keep asking the same question over and over, someone will eventually say yes. So I remember his first day, he like went up to someone and asked him for like $100 or something, which is what I chose to do around campus. And we kind of had similar first experiences. We kind of asked shyly for $100. They said no, and then kind of ran away, which is what I did. I didn't have the kind of guts to stay there and explain myself. So the guy in the TED Talk after his first day, he kind of made a devotion to himself that he was going to stick, next time he does the rejection theory, he's going to stick with it and kind of firm the feeling of the uncomfortableness. So when he kept asking for questions and they would say, "Oh, why are you going to do that?" He just kind of kept on going. "Oh, whatever this reason." So that's something where you kind of, through rejection theory, you kind of build that self belief, the kind of perseverance and resilience that you'll need in the business world. So the prototypes for the weekend assignment that I made going off the three ideas from last week, was obviously the one that I went with was to get furniture from Let Go and use it as scenes. The other one of the funny ones I made, just because I enjoyed the idea, was to create kind of an actor's money with DiCaprio as the kind of head for that to pay the actors instead of using real money. And then the other one I did was to. What did I do?